Our brain is very complicated, of course. But in general, the brain conducts two types of processes, automatic and controlled. The automatic processes of the brain are happening in its old part, the part that we have inherited through thousands of generations of evolution. This ancient part of the brain controls our body, but it does so without any conscious thought. This includes, of course, actions like breathing and blinking, but it's also related to habits. And this automatic system is super efficient. There's also a newer part of our brain. This part has evolved more recently, perhaps as recent as in the last 200,000 years or so. This new part of our brain deals with the controlled processes, such as language, reasoning, and conscious planning. Although amazing, this part of our brain is actually not very good. For one thing, we can only consciously think about one thing at a time. The conscious mind is fragile. It gets tired. It's like a muscle. But the control system is crucial and has evolved to support the automatic processes by allowing us to think about long-term goals and thereby avoid the tyranny of constant here and now decisions. We can think of alternatives that we cannot actually see, and we can weigh such things as long-term health risks against instant gratification. Now, it's a fact that our life is very complex. We are constantly faced with more information than we can possibly process. In fact, since the control system can in general only do one thing at a time, we must constantly create shortcuts or rules of thumb to aid our decision making. These shortcuts are absolutely necessary and will almost always improve our decision making. But whenever we make decisions without thinking, we may be manipulated by the negotiator across the table. Let's think about the turkey, the bird, not the country. Turkey mothers are really great mothers. They love and protect their little ones. They spend most of their time warming, cleaning, and feeding their little turkey chicks. However, all of this mothering behavior is triggered by a single feature, the chip chip sound that a young baby turkey makes. If a chick says chip chip, then the turkey mother will take care of it, warm it, clean it, feed it. But if not, the turkey mother will simply ignore or even kill the baby chick. If a biologist takes a stuffed animal that looks like a natural enemy of the turkey, like a weasel, then the turkey will immediately attack it. However, if the biologist takes the same stuffed weasel and installs a speaker that makes the sound chip chip, then the turkey mother will keep mothering the fake weasel until the sound stops, at which time the turkey will once again attack it. This might appear to be a very stupid thing to do. And turkeys are, of course, not as intelligent as you and me. But it turns out that people, you, us, often act in a very similar way. Again, not because we are stupid, but because our lives are very complex and we need shortcuts. That is, people, like animals, often exhibit these fixed action patterns. Actions performed without thinking after being triggered by something. These shortcuts and fixed action patterns lead to cognitive biases, mistakes in decision making that we make without any thought. Here are a few examples of such cognitive biases. We often suffer from a bias that is known as escalation of commitment. That is, we often continue a course of action even when this constitutes irrational behavior. An example would be when we continue to negotiate and make a deal that is actually worse than our reservation point. Another common bias is called availability of information. We often judge the importance of information on how easily the information is to recall. Clearly, information should be evaluated on its merit, not by how easy it comes to mind. However, this should encourage us to always present our information in a memorable way. Framing matters. Anyway, here are two more cognitive biases. First, the endowment effect. This is the tendency to overvalue something that we own or believe that we possess. And this can obviously cause a real problem in a negotiation, as the seller will tend to overvalue the object being sold, meaning that it will be difficult to establish a positive SOPA, zone of possible agreement. Another cognitive bias, somewhat similar, is reactive devaluation. Reactive devaluation is our tendency to devalue the other party's concessions simply because the other party made those concessions. This tendency really emphasizes the need to always remember to label our concessions, as well as define and demand reciprocity for our concessions. Anyway, clearly negotiation success demands careful planning and rational thought. However, as these cognitive biases make clear, due to our tendency to use mental shortcuts when making decisions, we also have to monitor our emotions and cognitive challenges.